Welcome back to lesson number 3. Before finding the reason for the error message in cell 5 up to cell 10, allow me to discuss what is relative and absolute cell reference. So for the demonstration purpose, I have selected additional table of 7 to demonstrate what is relative and absolute cell reference. 7 is typed 10 times, and now we need to type 1, 2, and in order to fill the remaining parts and remaining blank cell to continue to 3, 4 and 5, so this series can be filled up just like the one that we filled up to the months in the column. The same can be filled up black plus sign, so by double clicking it, it will fill it out. So the secondly, if we double click the plus sign at the heading of this column, the size of the cell will be adjusted according to the size of a text in the cell. So the text of a cell is a single character. The single character has been adjusted according to the cell. In the same way, by double clicking on this column, it will be adjusted accordingly. So in this cell we need multiplication of 7 times, mean a static 1. So 7 times 1 is 7. Now we want to fill it down to the remaining part, and we need to double click black sign and it fill it out. Filling the series can also be done with the help of the copy paste. So in order to demonstrate the copy and paste, I'm going to select these 9 entries or 9 multiplication in the table 7, and then press delete key on the keyboard to erase it. Now move on to the first multiplication. That means 7 times 1 is equal to 7, and we want to copy this formula to the remaining 9 cells of table 7. So select this part, I mean 7 times 1, which is G4 times I4. Control C, you can find the broken line circulated the 7, and selecting a range of 9 cells and pressing enter, the copy and paste has been done. Or this copy by pressing the Control C and then selecting the remaining range where we want to make the paste. Right click on the selected area, and then under paste option we need to press formula, FX or formula only. That means formula has been copied down to the remaining part. Whatever method we use to copy a formula from one cell to paste the value to paste the formula to other cells, we can see that the cell references are moving forward. Like the first one was G4 times I4, second is G5 I5, G6 I6, G7 I7, and so on. The cells are moving forward. So this is called the relative cell reference. So whenever we make the copy, so the relative cell references are moving forward. For example, if I copy this one and then paste over here, so that means that relative two cells in the same order has been moved in this place. Let's move on to the absolute cell reference. In order to understand what is the absolute cell reference, I'm going to delete 7. Instead of relatively multiplying cells, I'm going to fix or freeze the 7. So it means that equal to 1 times 7, and this 7 is written only one time, so I'm going to freeze it. So in order to freeze it, I need to press F4 key, and after pressing F4 key, you can see that the dollar sign, so two dollar sign before H and before 3 can be seen. and press enter. Now I'm going to copy 7 and to the remaining part of the table, and pressing enter we can see the same figures of the table are there. So by pressing F2 key we can see that I4 multiply with H3, I5 with H3, I6 with H3. So in this way the red colored cell address has been frozen. This frozen cell is called absolute cell. The same example that we have demonstrated for the relative, let me copy the 35 and I'm going to paste over here. So by pressing F2 key we can find that this 7 is frozen forever. So however M is moving relatively, whereas H3 is frozen. So M is a relative cell reference, whereas H3 by placing the dollar sign become frozen or absolute. Here's second example of absolute cell reference. There are 3 persons whose annual income has been given in column B, and we want to calculate the mortgage for these 3 persons on the basis of the multiplier 4.75. So by pressing the equal to sign for formula, B15 times D13 is equal to the expected mortgage value of our Mr. Brown, and if we make the D13 absolute by pressing F4 key on D13, dollar sign can be placed, and now we can copy it by pressing Control D. So the value of the upper cell is normally copied to the downward cell by pressing the Control D, and by making this formation with the comma separator, and we don't need the decimal places. So in this case B cell is moving relatively by moving from B15 to B16 to B17, whereas D13 is frozen or fixed or absolute forever by placing the dollar sign. We are now in position to find the reason that why this error message appear in the cell C5, C6. So reason behind the error is that by copying the formula in C4 to the downward, there was a movement of the relative cell reference. So relative cell reference means the B5 is divided by B12. The B12 is empty, so that means it shows that division by 0. So whenever a figure is divided by 0, it become infinity. So infinity mean in this case it is error. In same case is happening over here. So B6 is being divided by B13, mean 1500 is being divided by 0. So division divided by 0 become infinity, so error message can be seen. In this case we were to find the percentage of each and every month with respect to the total. So total should be the frozen, total should be the absolute. In this case if we make total as a frozen or absolute, the error message can be avoided. Let's come back to the percentage of the first cell, that means the percentage of the January, by pressing F2 and making B11, this total amount written in the red, making it absolute by pressing F4 key. So now it has been become absolute. By copying the formula in C4 downward to the remaining cell, we can see that error message has been removed now. So F5 means 1000 divided by 19,400, 1500 divided by 19,400, 2500 divided by 19,400, and so on. So in this way we have frozen or made the cell B11 as a absolute and resolve the error. In our example, if we replace 7 with 8, we can get the table of 8, and if 8 is replaced with 9, we can get the table of 9. On the other hand, for the mortgage calculation, if a lender in this case is offering 4.75 as a multiplier, and if the lender decide to change the multiplier as 5, the impact of the mortgage calculation will be updated accordingly. In our example, we have made absolute value or absolute cell reference for both row and the column. In this case, H3, both H and 3, H mean H column and 3 mean third row, both has been made absolute by placing $2 sign, one before H and second before 3. So in this case we have made absolute both column and the row. In the second example, D13, both column number D and row number 13 has been made as absolute. So basically for us, for every cell there is an address, and this address is composed of alphabet represents the column and the number represent the row. So in this case the C is a column and 15 is the row. This particular case we have made D13, so this is a D13, so this is the D and 13, so we have made D13 as an absolute. Not only the both column and row can be made absolute, we have the option either to make only column as an absolute or row and absolute. In order to illustrate single row or single column absolute, let's move on to our next example. In this example we are going to find the future value of annuity on the basis of some interest rates, and for year 1 to up to year 5. In order to find the compound interest rate, we have to apply this formula. So compound interest rate formula for the future value is 1 plus I raised to the power n. In this case I is the rate of interest and n represent the number of the year for which we are going to find the future value on the basis of compound interest. In order to find the future value for 0.25% at the end of the year 1 for a single unit, we need to apply the formula equal to open parenthesis 1 plus interest rate bracket close raised to the power, which is the caret sign, year. By applying enter we can get the value 1.0025, which is represent the value of single unit at the end of year 1 at the rate of 0.25%. Now we want to apply the same formula in the whole of the table, but without making the absolute we cannot achieve our purpose. So let's make the some cell absolute. So in this case row number 3 representing the interest rate, whereas column B represent the year. So these are two values, or these are the two cell addresses, column B and row 3. We can find in this particular case B column need to be made absolute. So in order to make it absolute we have to place $sign before B. On the other hand, row number 3 need to be made absolute, so we need to place the $sign before 3. Column B has been made absolute and row 3 has been made absolute. By pressing enter we can get the value. Applying the control C and making the selection of the whole of the table and pressing enter, we can get the table filled out for for 5 years for interest rate starting from 0.25 up to 2%. Let's take it in arrest mode for the year 1 at 0.25%, year 2, year 3, year 4 and year 5. For 0.5%, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So you can see that we have developed the table without any error, and this could only be possible by making column B as an absolute and row 3 as an absolute.